Hey guys, Sean Klinger with Vital MX with Chris Siebenar, and today we are looking at another 2021 bike. This time it's an all-new model from a manufacturer that typically makes just off-road bikes. This is their first motocross bike. It is the Beta 300 RX. Kind of where this bike came from, talking a little bit about Beta and looking at the press release that they sent out. They said they kind of saw a gap in the market, that there aren't that many 300 two-strokes for motocross riding. I mean, basically it's just the TM out there, and unless you got a big bore. They also were looking at kind of vet riders that maybe aren't racing. They don't have to stick to a class, and so that's why they went with a 300. They also had a lot of success with their off-road 300 two-strokes, that they have kind of a trail version and then a more racer version of the 300, and I think it's a very potent bike and well proven off-road. So what makes this Beta a motocross version? First of all, no lights. This is the first bike that they offer without lights. Another thing is the suspension. So they have a KYB closed cartridge fork up front. That's 48 mil. It is similar to what they have on their off-road bikes. They do have that, but it has motocross specific valving, and they've also lengthened the travel a little bit. And then out back they have a Sachs shock. So this is something that they've used for a long time, just upgraded it with what they call their motocross valving. In the control department, it's a Beta bar. There's 3 different positions for the handlebar mounts. Control-wise, there is a Brembo hydraulic clutch. There are Nissan brakes. It uses a power valve system in the motor, so that you can actually tune that to get more of a hit, more aggressive, or a little bit mellower hit. Kind of moves around the power a little bit. It has a 19-inch rear wheel, as motocross bikes should. When you buy this bike, it will come with a kickstand. Also comes with the bike stand itself. It has a keen carb. Some of the Beta off-road models are oil injected. This one, like their race models, it's a little bit more aggressive to still have the naturally aspirated engine with a carburetor. And that's kind of all they did to make this more of a motocross model. So I'll throw it to Siebes to your initial impressions of riding this bike.
First off was how easy the bike starts. I think you said when you first got the bike, you just pushed the button to see what it did, and it started up. I mean, it is the lightest press of a button, and the bike turns over. The power on the bike it's so smooth. Now we did play with the power valve a little bit. Beta says when you turn the screw in, you get less of a hit. You turn the screw out, you get more of a hit. Kind of felt that a little bit more. What I felt was a shifting of the power loop. So when you turn it in, it kind of shifts that power a little bit more down low. As you pull it out, pushes the power up a little bit.
Yeah, I want to say with along those lines, it was basically, it's a 300, so it has this torquey character. You're not really lacking power when you crank in that power valve and you're thinking more hit. I felt like it just really shortened the top end. That's really what was happening. So it would have a strong hit bottom to mid, and then it just got tight up. It like made more noise than it made power, and then having it a little bit, the power valve out, a little softer hit. I didn't feel like I was really losing anything. It just kind of let it over rev more, a little freer. I didn't have to shift as much, and it was just easier to ride that way.
I mean, it's a lot of torque down bottom. There's even a jump here on the track where even diving down into the inside, you roll on the power and hit the jump right out of the corner. The bike doesn't come on the pipe at any point where maybe it spins or wants to take off. It's actually a really just controlled build of the RPM. The motor revs extremely free.
Some people talk about a big bore kit on their 250 or 300s. Typically they're more off-road bikes, but overall, the bigger the two-stroke gets, the less revvy, the slower the rev, the chuggier. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to work for moto so great. I didn't feel that at all. I felt like there was great snap, great throttle response, and quick rev.
The chassis I thought was pretty good. They did mention that they gusseted some areas around the head. And just try to stiffen up the frame in general a little bit. And having ridden other off-road specific bikes, and especially I think it's the European off-road specific bikes. There is a very big difference between what you would consider a Euro off-road bike and maybe a Japanese off-road bike. Usually Japanese is a little bit still racy, still firmer, stiffer chassis, everything. Sometimes you get the European bikes where you come up short on something, or you get into a section of rollers and you can just feel that chassis starting to move and binding up. This one actually felt like it had a lot of stability into it. The suspension, Sachs is, in the motocross world, it is a very different shock. We're used to Showa, KYB, WP.
The one thing was the ride height for me felt like the whole bike was a little bit chopper, even though we set the sag for both of us. And I increased the low speed to kind of try to get the balance a little bit more neutral rather than sliding off the back feel. And that helped. I can also say, like, I felt like I was riding pretty low in the shock stroke, but while I felt like I wanted almost more suspension travel out back, I felt like it did its job well, at least for my, average vet speed.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the fork?
Being an off-road brand and having a fork that they use on the off-road bikes, I was expecting more comfort. I was expecting kind of like more of a pillowy, plushy kind of thing that we would have to firm up to be comfortable with. We did need to firm it up because it was soft. Riding it stock, it was kind of soft and it moved a lot. You crank in the compression and it starts to get harsh. It doesn't really like slow it down.
See, and I felt the fork instantly going out. The fork felt soft for me. I did stiffen it up quite a bit. We got a little bit more feeling out of it. Tried to go even a little bit stiffer, and then what it felt like was when I'd go with the brake, the front end would, transfer its weight forward, load the front end, and then it wouldn't really work the suspension very much. It would just push the front tire. So, like you said, I don't know if it's a spring or maybe if it's a oil, but there's a little bit something in there that can be played with.
Riding the off-road betas that I have in the past, I feel like they're pretty nimble feeling off-road, easy to flick around, and not that the 300 didn't feel that way. It just felt like almost like a little bit too tall for me, where I was having a little bit hard time getting it to tip in initial turn. And I think the 300 kind of torquey, luggable, linear power, I could really control the slide.
Exits were so fun on this bike.
Yeah, you can control, like, there's immediate throttle to rear wheel. I want to slide a little bit more, just a little bit more. And so that was a lot of fun to play with, breaking the back end loose. But when I wanted to, not out of control.
Personally, I love the look of the bike. It definitely is a Euro look. The billet treble clamps, Excel wheels, the nickel plated pipe, and there's a map button, which we forgot to talk about.
The map button definitely was less noticeable than the power valve. I think the adjustments on the power valve is really the way to go to get to manipulate the power. The map button, it did seem to kind of just knock down the power a little bit, but it didn't change the character. Like, it just kind of made it a little bit mellower. But if you have that power valve, super in, and it's in the hitty mode, it still has that same character. It's just a little bit less.
Seems like, the map would be good is if you already have your bike figured out for a track, you're going racing that weekend, and you're riding, they water the track halfway, mid-moto, you can go down, you can push it. Again, 300, neat bike. I don't want to say it's a niche bike, but there are actually a lot of vet classes which don't have, they're more just by age, right? Or age and skill. So you'd have like a vet novice, a vet intermediate, which really is a run what you brung kind of a class. So a 300 actually makes sense. If it's a little bit easier to ride, you're not going to lose out of corner power to a guy on a 450.
Well, and I feel like it's a similar, not the way it makes power, but I think the quantity of power is similar to a 450, but it's a lot lighter. It's a very windy day today at Kauai, and in the air, I think you were mentioning, it's almost like, a four-stroke, there's a lot of other things, the cam chain, the cams, all of the head, all those things are spinning, all of that's a gyro effect to kind of keep you more...
It gets driving you through the wind.
But it gives it a heavier feel, where two-stroke, so much less rotating mass, and in the air, it's like, you can flick it around, and it definitely has that two-stroke, lightweight, kind of put it wherever you want feel. All right, so we're going to definitely put more time on this bike. We're going to ride at different places. We're going to play around with everything that we can play around with, more with the power valve, more with the mapping and the suspension to see what, is our kind of target best place that we like this bike. If you are on YouTube, please check out vitalmx.com for more stories. If you're on vitalmx.com, go to our YouTube channel, click like, click subscribe, and thanks for watching.